This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
Speaking of things that are funny, I watched Thor, which is not.
It has a lot of jokes, I hear.
It has a lot of jokes. Man, what it's pretty. It's like sad because there's potential in this movie, and it is squandered by whatever Taika Waititi was doing, because they have a lot of jokes, like a lot. It is overwhelming, and the problem with the jokes is that they don't service the story. They're not particularly good. Like, my theater was like silent through the whole movie, and it's like, which is awkward because like it's quip after quip, and the theater's not reacting at all. It's like a stand-up who's bombing.
And where are the clips coming from? Like all the characters, or is it mostly?
Yeah, it's just like it's everywhere. It's because it's Thor. He's acting, stupid, and then even like Jane. Even in the older movies, she's kind of like silly and quippy,
Yeah.
And then Lady Thor now, and then just everybody, like Tessa Thompson, she's got some quips. Of course, Taika Waititi as Korg, he's like in it way more. He's like he's like in it all the time, quipping all the time. So it's like quips, and then they have these like the screaming goats. You probably heard of these screaming goats.
I hear they're in a lot of the film.
Yeah, and like at first, like some of the audience laughed like nervously, like, "Aha, it's what's going on? Well, why are they here?" But then after that, nothing. Like they're just annoying. It's like, why? Like, I don't know if there's like Thor lore with screaming goats. But
it's so interesting to hear this. So I haven't seen the movie yet, because all of the trappings of what make a lot of these big releases bad, what you would expect to be problematic about the movie, it sounds like all of that it's doing very successfully. The story's good, the characters are good.
The story's good. The Christian Bale has a very compelling villain who makes sense. You have like, it's not like a bait and switch where it's kind of like the trailers made it seem like it was going to be like more of a Lady Thor type of movie, or Mighty Thor, I guess she's called. And it's not. It's Thor's movie. He's the hero. He ends up saving the day, basically. It's his journey. It's his thing, and all that stuff works. And the ending works. The beginning setup with Christian Bale's character works. So it's, especially the first 5 minutes, you're like, I was kind of lulled into like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, this is pretty compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets into like the rest of the film. It's tedious. That's the problem. It's like you have all this good stuff, but then it's like stepping on rakes all the time. So it's like silent. It's like Silent Bob, or what? Not Silent Bob. Sideshow Bob. Stepping on all the rakes, trying to get to kill Bart. And I'm like, just kill Bart already. But
I think Taika is a clear talent, and it even sounds like, and I'll have to weigh in when I see it, but it sounds like, despite the obvious errors he made with the comedy, and I've heard that now a lot. Like it seems like across the board, people are like, the comedic sensibility about this movie is kind of like, it fucked it up.
And Ragnarok is great. Like, I like Ragnarok. Ragnarok, I thought worked well, great story, good buddy comedy. But this doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And I think there's a couple things that I think are the reason why. One, I feel it feels forced. I think it needs Loki. Like, I think like you need that kind of like dark energy to bring the story down a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think Thor needs that. He can't just be a goofy asshole the whole time.
Why in the world wouldn't they intersect the cool? I mean, I don't like the Loki show, but there's a lot happening over there. Like, why not for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, but the Jane stuff does sort of work, which is weird.
Very.
And I think if they let it breathe just even a little bit, if they just toned it down like 30-40%, I think this would have been a good movie.
I mean, a lot of times, like, packing in humor is done because you don't have confidence in your own material. Like, I'll overwhelm it with things that might keep the audience's attention because I don't know how to keep their attention. And this is a filmmaker that, is like an Academy Award winning screenwriter, and he's made everything he's made up to this point has been very, very strong. What We Do in the Shadows, Thor Ragnarok, Jojo Rabbit, they're all super strong. And so, like, this is not a guy who has to struggle to keep your attention. So maybe for some reason he's kind of like, is he having a James Gunn Peacemaker moment? Could it be with these really talented guys that there's, or really, I don't know, maybe we could think of a few filmmakers throughout history where there's kind of like a bell curve of, they have some early indie work where they're like really trying to prove their stuff. When they're finally given their opportunity, they often peak, or they really give us something special. And then at some point, like, they kind of are over the cliff of like the special thing that they could give you. And so they start trying new things that don't necessarily work. Like, that does seem to be a pattern.
Yeah. It's hard to say. Like, it really does feel like there is a version of the script that would work really well. And it was just like punched up way too much. But
how does that happen with a guy that has a strong voice? It's just, I could see that happening with Ant-Man,
Yeah, it's bad. That's what it's a very frustrating film where you want to like it, and there's a lot to like. There's a lot of good moments. I do like the ending. I think is really good. Like, if the rest of the film worked, it would have been a really good ending. But it's tedious. Like, I felt it. And especially with the theater. If the jokes landed more and the theater was laughing and getting into it, I felt a little better about the film. But no, it was tedious. That's all
I saw a review that said, like, the humor at times felt like it was like a Minions movie or something.
Yeah, almost like a Mel Brooks movie, but not like the early Mel Brooks, like later Mel Brooks, like Dracula Dead, I'm loving it.
Yeah, right. You just, anything that, if the joke's there, you always take it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it like, it's almost like, it suffocates you. Yeah. You're suffocating in jokes.
Sure works on a 10-year-old though, man. Like,
yeah,
Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Just like,
absolutely, I loved that stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, and then you watch it now and you just cringe out of your eyeballs. Like, wow. Well, I'll have to go see it for sure. I'm excited. Of all of, they're striking out hard for me. We were having a conversation in Discord not long ago about Phase 4, and one of our friends in there,
more like Phase Bore,
always disagrees with us about everything. I'm talking about Sam, of course. And I think he was saying that, like, we're overstating how bad Phase 4 is, and I think that's wrong.
No, it's absolutely wrong.
Because
sorry.
Well, there's like, even if they were all mediocre, that would add up to being bad because you've invested 20 years into the thing, like. But
what I don't understand about Phase 4 is there's no buildup anywhere.
Right.
Like, every story is self-contained in a way, and there's no crossover. Like, you should be building these guys together. You should be having like surprising team ups. You should be doing all of this stuff, and it's like, it's not happening anywhere. Like, the TV shows are all self-contained. Like, I think Moon Knight could have benefited from some sort of.
I heard well, like, I occasionally you'll get some gaslighty stuff where they're like, well, it took a very long time for Phase 1 to gear up.
No.
And I was like, no, it didn't. It took 3 fucking movies. And every one of them was leading up to the Avengers. And then the Avengers was something you've never seen anything like it before. Yeah. There were no television shows that stretched on for 7 episodes and did nothing,
Yeah. And when, like, Thor met Iron Man, it was a huge event. It was, like, so cool. Like, it was supposed to be an event. And not
for nothing, it was Thor and it was Iron Man. and it was Captain America. It wasn't like Captain America's sister and and Thor's auntie.
But still, you could do something. They have all these X-Men they're not doing anything with. They have Fantastic Four they're doing nothing with.
Yeah.
It's like you have the components.
Yeah.
Of
course. You'd have to start planning it, and they seem to not want to for some reason or another, and probably because they want to maximize their flexibility. And I think that so a couple of things I've heard recently, I don't know how true they are, but I've heard that Kevin Feige used to be hands-on in the production of every one of these movies. Like, he'd go to the sets regularly when one of them was shooting, and he doesn't do any of that anymore. That's all gone. He's there for the development, the early development, and he's there to give notes on the screenings. And that's like it.
Yeah. And he has to wake up then, or find somebody who will do this. I know they said like James Gunn was probably going to be the person who would be that, but because of the cancellation or whatever.
That's why you kept hearing like it's going to go Cosmos. It's going to be all the space shit because it was going to be a James Gunn creative direction. And then some old tweets mattered a lot to all of us.
Well,
I remember when that farce was going on, and I was like, are we really, as a culture, going to fall for this right now? Are we really like...
Oh, yeah. It was a storm of all that stuff going on, because it was like in revenge for somebody going after someone else's tweets. So it was just like a whole tweet revenge story.
But because that was so transparent that it was really just like fighting fire with fire and stuff, it was like, well, then why would you let it work?
Yeah.
Why would you be like, anybody with anything unsavory in their past as a human being is fired?
Yeah, especially Trauma James Gunn. You knew who you were hiring.
You knew who the fuck you were hiring. You kidding me? You don't even need... All you got to do is like watch Super. Literally the movie right before he made Guardians of the Galaxy. The one you probably hired him based on.
Yeah.
Is this like disgusting, depraved film.
Oh, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy are in this movie in the beginning, and I feel like they're done dirty. Like I like they're. It seems like there was supposed to be a James Gunn movie before this that would have maybe solved some of the issues with the Guardians, but they act like jerks, and especially to Thor and their relationship, and it's just like it comes off like weird and mean.
That feels very like unplanned. Like, hey, what we'll do is we'll pair Thor with the Guardians, and like we'll let the next people like do something cool with that. And it's like, no, he'll cancel it in the first several minutes. Like that's kind of ridiculous.
It feels
it shouldn't be allowed.
Like there should have been like I think James Gunn was going to make as Guardians of the Galaxy or something, and that didn't happen. And what we got is like a really like sped up version of it, which makes everything come off bad.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to check that out. I heard there was a funny news story going around during the press of this movie that Taika had a really good working relationship with Natalie Portman, and he's developing a Star Wars movie, and he said, hey, like would you ever be interested maybe in being in a Star Wars movie someday?
Never happened.
She was like, I've been. And then, he was like, I had to laugh because I guess I forgot about the prequels, tee-hee. And it pissed off a fair amount of like kind of, and we're going to talk about this in a moment, actually. We'll make it our next topic to make it segue. But as it so happens, there's a lot of people who love the prequels. They fucking love the prequels. Holy shit. And don't I know it? For the past 20 years, I've been making like every 7 years or so, I make a piece of content that criticizes the prequels, and I get a shitstorm that comes my way. For anybody who says like, no, everybody hates the prequels, like, nah, they've loved this stuff since the beginning, man. Like, there's a fair amount of people who dislike those films, but the ones who like it are really passionate about it. But anyway, they were pissed that he forgot about the prequels because they feel as though the prequels are a big part of Star Wars, and if you're ignoring those, you're maybe pulling a JJ. And I thought about it, and I was like, it's possible that he's like, I hate those movies. I forgot about those movies. They're dog shit. That's possible. But I think
that's likely.
But it's more probable. Like I could see, Natalie Portman at age 17 is very different than Natalie Portman at age like 40. Yeah. And like I think
she had like a Black Swan event between there.
Yeah, like I think she like her performance ability is like way different now. I think she has an altogether different appeal. She has an altogether different filmography. And if you knew her personally, I feel like you could kind of you could be well aware of the prequels. You could know them as well as anybody and still somehow disassociate that, like, the person that you worked with on Thor, for at least for a moment, for a fleeting moment, you could be like, oh yeah, of course you were in it. How could I have forgotten? But like, so I don't know. I kind of laughed and I related to it.
No, I absolutely did.
Yeah,
but it does give a little bit of warning signs about Taika's ability to do a Star Wars film.
Oh my god, if Kathleen Kennedy didn't want fucking Phil and Lord to make a jokey Han Solo movie, like, look out. This dude's gonna make a jokey Knights of the Old Republic movie or whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, that's my philosophy. If you're going to make a Star Wars thing, you might as well make it just like a Star Wars Visions, basically.
Yeah. How come anytime anybody talks about doing something non-Skywalker related, the only thing they can come up with is Knights of the Old Republic?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, it's a video game. It's for, and maybe I'm sure there were some comics. But it's
I understand it's a video game, but like when people say that, I don't know what they're talking.
Is it a colorful cast of characters? Is there something appealing there? I don't know.
My guess is it's really far in the past, and it has nothing to do with the Skywalkers. That's how I interpret it in my.
I think it's like ancient. Yeah, like 1,000 years. Like it's like the beginnings of the Jedi and like the war with the Sith. When the Sith were, I believe, I once saw a really cool cutscene from some video game or something. It was actually pretty remarkable. And it was a bunch of old Jedi fighting a bunch of old Sith. And then after that war, after the Jedi won, the Sith had to like break into pairs for some reason from that point forward. Some nerd shit. But
subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.